This is Rusty with Beach and Barn. And what I'm going to go over today with you is SketchUp has changed the way that their free product work. It used to work like this. You downloaded the program, even their free model. You just hit start using SketchUp, and it's a program, just like any other traditional program. That would download onto your hard drive, and you would use the application straight off of your hard drive. But of course, about 2 weeks before I'm heading down to Orlando to teach a SketchUp class at the International Builders Show, they have changed the way that they distribute their free model into a cloud-based project or product. So I've actually spent quite a bit of time with it, and it's pretty good. It's you need web access to use it. That's one thing. You do need an internet connection. So I still have that version of SketchUp on my desktop. So what I did is just go to sketchup.com, and then you can see where I clicked the button. I believe it said, begin using SketchUp Live or SketchUp Free. So once I do that, it takes just a couple of seconds, and it loads the program into the browser. And for a cloud-based application, it does work. It's telling me I have an unsaved model was found from your last session. Do you want to open it? I'm just going to put no. We're going to start with a new model, and just like the old SketchUp. Actually, what I was going to say was, I started saying was, it's pretty responsive, pretty powerful for a cloud-based application. I haven't gone into some of the layering and some of the 3D model or some of the 3D warehouse where you can actually download trim packages, and you can download like a piece of pre-made furniture. So I've toyed with that a little bit, but not deep enough into it to go over. But what I thought I would do is just go over some real fundamentals of getting started in SketchUp using the new cloud model. So just like the old version of SketchUp, it always starts with a model. A model of a guy or a girl or an old man or something like that. But first thing you can always do is get rid of him. You can bring him back. They're always good for scaling. This guy's about 6 feet tall, I believe. So always good to have that for scaling. But for today's purposes, we're just going to get rid of him. So if you look over to the left, there's a toolbar that has about, it looks like 1, 3, 6, 9, about 11 tools over here. And when you click on any one of them with the little arrow to the right of it, it kind of gives you, it kind of explodes into different sub menus. So, but we'll get to those in a second. But the first thing we're going to do is click the select up here. This is just any computer program, you're going to have a cursor. And this is just how you select objects. So this guy is a component model. So when I come over here and click him, everything on there is going to turn blue, have a blue rectangle around it, and all of his curves and all the proportions are going to be blue. So that means he's fully selected. So if I just take my finger while highlighted and hit the delete key, he's going to go away. So what we're going to do today, this is just a quick fundamental run through the toolbar in the new SketchUp Free. So if I come here, that's going to be my eraser. And when you pull off, you can always kind of see what the tool is. So that's the eraser. Once I have things drawn, I can just I can just go up to any component or any object and hit the erase, and it'll get rid of it. The paint bucket here, you notice when I hit paint bucket, it brings up a materials list over on the right. So it's pretty cool. Once I have a plane built, I'll show you. I can. I'll go through this step individually in a minute, but let's just draw a little patio here, call it. And I'm going to come up to my material selection, and let's just say, let's make that patio brick. Let's make it like a brick pavered patio. So while I've got that selected, and I've got my paint bucket here, I just go down and, whoops. After I click that plane there, you'll see that it puts all those pavers. So that's a real quick lesson on that, but that's not the intent of this. We'll get to that in just a second. So what I just did is I selected the pointer over here to the left at the top, and then if I just go in and click the middle of this section and hit delete, it's just going to get rid of the middle, because all I did was click right here in the middle. So it got rid of the field, but not my borders. So if I want to get rid of the borders, I can click them individually. So you see where they turn blue when I click this pointer is selected. So I can, click, and do that individually, which is a little tedious, particularly with the larger model. So I'm going to bring those back. You can undo anything in SketchUp by just hitting in. I use a Mac, so Command Z is going to bring everything back. So what I'm going to do is, actually I want to go back and that thing break again. This is just a little bit slower than when it's on this cloud based. I'm noticing that's a little bit slower adding this stuff than it is when it's on your machine. Oh, it's not adding it because I've not completed it. There we go. Okay, so to get rid of everything in one click, what I'm going to do is I'm going to click. If you're familiar with AutoCAD, it works kind of the same way. I'm going to click the mouse down, and while I'm still holding it, I'm going to pull to the left. And you'll notice that once I have everything selected and I let go, it's going to make the border and the edges blue as well as the field inside. So when I hit the delete key, it gets rid of everything in one stroke. It's a lot quicker, a lot more efficient than clicking everything individually. So that's the paint bucket. We're not going to go right there right now. I want to spend a little bit of time getting you into some modeling. So when I click the little pencil here, the fourth tool down, I see kind of a traditional pencil and a squiggly line. The traditional pencil, I'm going to show you both really quick, and then we're going to come back to the pencil, is what I'm going to use to draw just straight lines. That pencil equals straight lines. And the tool lets me kind of draw like it translates to 90-degree angles really well. Everything pulls off of a 90-degree angle, but we'll talk about that in a minute. So that's how I draw straight lines. But I'm also going to come over to the pencil. I'm going to grab the kind of squiggly looking line, and that's going to allow me to put kind of just free-form draw inside my model here. I'm still going to intersect to those 2 points. But again, as you can see, so I've created a divide here. And again, it's just a tool that lets me do a little free form drawing. When you're drawing base moldings and crown moldings, things like that, it's really helpful. But for today, we're going to stick with straight lines. So you see where I drew my triangle or drew my rectangle here. I'm going to go ahead, highlight everything, and delete that. I'm going to come back up to the pencil, and let's go ahead and just draw. I'm going to draw. Let's imagine that we're getting ready to build a client has asked for us to draw them or to build them a base cabinet, and we want to build that base cabinet in SketchUp just to kind of get an idea what it's going to look like. Maybe we want to show it to the client. Maybe we're just building it for ourselves in SketchUp before we build it in the grab the tool here, and let's just say that it's a traditional, say 36-inch wide by 2 foot deep base cabinet. So let's do the 2 feet first. Like it's going to be a 2 foot deep cabinet. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to click the pencil line right here at what's called the origin. The origin is where the 3 axes meet. There's a blue axis, a green axis, and a red axis. That's what makes it a 3D model. It can go up it can go back, and it can go to the side. Software like AutoCAD, while they do have some 3D components, that's where an architect's going to go draw 2D, a 2D drawing that's going to show you just the front elevation of a set of cabinets, but maybe it's not going to show you how deep they are and some of the detail in the back. So that's all SketchUp is just a 3D, one of many 3D modeling programs. So anyway, I'm going to click right in the origin. I'm going to start to pull, and actually if I come off of the green axis and kind of pull my pencil up, you'll see that it's just asking me, where do you want to drop the other end of this line. So I'm just going to take it up the green line, but I want you to look down here, always in the bottom right. Whenever SketchUp is looking for any kind of parameters like a length, this is always where it's going to go. So as I pull this to the green axis, meaning I'm going back, I always like to pull it a little further than normal. And then I just hit the 2 button. And if you look down here at the right, it changes it when I move my cursor, but I'm going to go back up. But look down in the bottom right. When I hit 2, it's going to put the 2 there. And when I put foot just to the left of my return key, I'm going to have my foot in inches. I'm going to hit 2 feet. And look at the bottom right. It says the length is 2 feet. When I hit return, it's going to draw me a 2-foot line. And I'm going to show you a little bit later how you can use the tools over on the left to confirm that it is 2 feet. But in the meantime, we said it's going to be a 3-foot wide base cabinet. So let's start to pull along the red axis. And again, I always like to pull a little bit further. So if I look down to the bottom right, I can tell I'm at 7'2", but I only want it to be a little bit further. So I'm going to hit 3 feet, hit enter. Now that I've got those 2 dimensions in, like I said earlier, everything pulls off of it's going to default all of your angles to a 90-degree angle. So when I start to kick back down towards the red axis, all I'm waiting for is for the little controls to kick in, and it automatically, I don't know if you can see that, it's automatically going to kick it to the green axis, and this is the green axis that I want to be parallel here, so I don't have to type in 2 feet there. I just bring the green axis down to where it meets with the red axis, and I click, and it automatically is going to set that line there. So if I go all the way back over to the left, up the red axis, and all of a sudden it just closed that in. Now I'm not going to get into the toe kick part of that'll be for a different, little bit more involved tutorial. But right now I really don't want to see I just got rid of that. Got rid of the materials over there. I really don't want to get too much into detail. But let's just imagine for right now that this is our base cabinet, and for whatever reason the client said they don't want a toe kick. Maybe they've got no toes. So what I'm going to do real quick, I'm going to skip down. We're going to come back up to these tools. But what I want to do is I want to skip down, because this is what really makes SketchUp a 3D rendering program. And let's just click right here on what is called the push-pull. This is really one of the coolest tools. The first time I used this in SketchUp, I just thought it was the coolest. So what this lets you do, the push-pull, is when I click that, that lets me bring what I just drew up the blue axis. Right now we only have a 2D rendering of what we just did. So that we can only see that this is 3 feet wide and 2 feet deep. But we know that a base cabinet is going to at least be 36 inches tall these days. So what I'm going to do is, while I've got, I went over and I selected on the left the push-pull tool. And right now what I just did was I just clicked the inside. I'm clicking it right now, the inside of our square. I'm going to start to pull it up, and you can see that 3rd dimension rising. And like I said, I always pull it a little bit taller. If I look down in the bottom right, you'll see the distances. Right now I have it pulled to 6'4 3/4. I'm just going to hit 3 feet. I'm going to hit enter. So now we have a 2 foot wide, or 2 foot deep, 3 foot wide, 3 foot tall base cabinet. So what you can do to get some different perspective on this, and again, we're just kind of skipping around the toolbar. We're going to go back. But if you come all the way to the bottom, you'll see what's called the orbit tool. All these tools at the bottom have to do with where you place what you're seeing on the screen. So when I hit the orbit tool, I'll explain that. And I'm going to click, and I'm just holding the mouse down while I scan around. It's showing me all 3 dimensions. I can see all around that model now. So it's pretty cool. I can, select the hand to kind of move it along to just 2 dimensions. But again, so what we're going to do is we're going to zoom in a little bit on this guy and go through some of the other tools. So to zoom, I'm going to click the orbit menu down here at the bottom, the view menu, and I'm just going to go down to the bottom here, and you see these where it says zoom extents. It's a magnifying glass with 3 arrows, and what that does is when I click zoom extents, it's going to fill my desktop with everything I've drawn. So when I click that, it's going to bring that in real tight to me, so I can scroll around and see that model. And when I get into really detailed work, when I want to add the rails and stiles to this base cabinet, when I add doors, it's going to let me work up really close. But let's go back up to the toolbar, and we're going to get into, this is where we get into some of the arcs, 2-point arc, 3-point arcs, pi. Again, what this is really going to allow us to do, and again, we're not going to get too involved in this stuff right now, but it's going to let me draw an arc to here. So if I'm, if I want to show a door opening in my drawing, it makes it really easy for me to show the client the way that the door is going to open, the way that anything's going to happen. Again, we're not going to get too crazy into arcs right now, but to give you a quick tutorial. Quick idea of what I just did, or if you need to use an arc for something, again, it's really easy. You're just going to come to the point that you are. It's showing me the length. I just want to make it, let's say I want to bring it out 3 feet. If you look in the bottom right, you'll see my 3 feet. It's going to take that along that edge. It's at 3 feet, and when I click, it's going to come all the way down, and that makes sense because this is 3 feet wide and 3 feet tall, so it would make sense that we go from here all the way down. But again, I was just kind of showing you those arcs. We don't really need that for what we're doing now, but that's how the arc tool works. I just hit Command Z to back that out, and one of the future tutorials will spend a little bit more time with arcs. So let's go down to the next tool, and what this is it's basically letting me draw. This is kind of rectangles, rotated rectangle, circle, polygons, text. So when I drew that initial rectangle, I didn't have to do it. I just used 4 different lines as an example to show you guys how you use that line tool. But if we go to just click rectangle, and I click rectangle here, I can just click it and drag it out, and it'll make its own 4-sided rectangle right there. And if you look at the bottom right, it's telling me the dimensions of that rectangle as I'm drawing it. So if I get over here closer to 3 feet, you're going to see it click to 3 feet in just a minute. So there we go. It's saying that it's 3 feet. So I just went to the 3-foot dimension, and now I just went down to the 2-foot dimension. So I don't know if that makes a whole lot of sense. Let's rotate to the top here. And let's say that we were going to add another base cabinet off here to the side. I always like to just do it using lines, but you save a little bit of time by going with the rectangle. So if I start here, and I come here and I click again, and I'm just going to pull that rectangle out to where I want to go. And let's say that we want to make this base cabinet 2.5 feet. Whoops. We want to make this guy 2.5 feet. Whoops. Took it the wrong way. So I'm going to click here. Click this point. I'm going to start to pull it down the red axis. I'm going to put 2.5 feet. Well, it's actually kicking it to the side. So let's just, actually, I'm making it 2.5. It only needs to be 2. Base cabinet's only 2 feet deep, not 2.5. So I'm going to hit 2 feet, and there we go. We can bring it up. If it's a desk, we can leave it down. If it's, if it's a storage pantry, we can take it up further. But that's how, just real quick, that's how the rectangle works. We're not going to mess with the rotated rectangle because I'll be frank with you, I'm not exactly all that familiar with it. But a circle is really easy. Let's say we needed to draw a circle right in the middle of this guy. I can draw a line here and draw a line there, and that intersection in the middle. Let's say it's inside of that base cabinet. We're going to put a Lazy Susan, and we're trying to locate the middle. It's really easy. All I'm going to do is click here, click the circle, find the middle, and I'm going to start to, I just clicked in the middle, and as I'm pulling that circle up, I'm starting to see it get bigger. If I want to dictate the radius, I can do that. Look in the bottom right. I can tell it. I can hit 8 inches and enter. Whoops. 8 inches and enter. And it's going to set it right there. I can kind of go through. And I'm just deleting. I'm just highlighting and deleting all the other little reference sections to get rid of everything. And so all I'm left with is the circle. And I can come to the push-pull, and I can bring that Lazy Susan up just to show. And again, I'm usually not going to put that Lazy Susan on the top. This is just for demonstration. But there's that circle raised along all 3 axes. I'm going to hit, I'm just hitting Control and Z, getting rid of everything. I just want to get back to my normal box. Real quick, I'll show you the polygon. It's the same, works the same way. Only thing that's different is if you look in the bottom right, it's asking how many sides. Do we want 5 sides, 6 sides, 8-sided octagon? So again, I just hit at the point I want it to start and start to drag out, and it's going to make that a perfectly equal-sided 8-sided polygon. I'm going to hit Control Z because I don't want to see that anymore. Let's go down to the next menu item, and you'll see Follow Me. I'm not going to mess with Follow Me right now. I'd rather show you Offset. The Offset, what that does, actually it's easier to show you than explain. So let's come here and zoom extents. So what the offset does is it's going to draw on the inside of this square. It will offset inside of this square any dimension I want. So if I go up, this is really useful again for like a base cabinet. So a base cabinet isn't just going to have a flat plywood front. A base cabinet's going to have an opening inside, and it's going to have rails and stiles along the border, and usually those rails and stiles are going to be, the same distance or there's the same width. So it's really easy. So if you'll notice when I have the offset selected and I come inside of my square, look what happens to the square. The square kind of has these, has the dots, and all that's showing me is that the tool is referencing the dots. And again, we already use the push-pull tool in this menu. Push-pull tool does the same thing, but when I come to the offset, I'm inside and I have this plane selected, and I'm going to click it with my thumb. I'm using a trackpad on my laptop, and when I start to move with my index finger, up and down, you'll see the offset starting to be created. I usually don't like to eyeball that. I like to tell, particularly if I'm going to go build this out in the shop, I want to tell it exactly how wide I want that rail in style. 3.5, 3 inches has been really popular lately. So let's just put 3 inches. And you see the 3 inches build in the bottom right. And when I let go, it's going to set it right there. Matter of fact, I think I hit 3.25 inches. But anyway, and then I can offset inside of that. So let's say I want to start to build my doors, and I want a 1/8 inch reveal, or 1/16 tolerance inside of there. Well, it didn't really do it, did it? There we go. So there's my doors. I can come over here. There's my straight line. I'm selecting my pencil, and you'll notice what it does. SketchUp does a pretty good job of, like right now, it just found, I was just kind of trolling along that line up at the top, and it gave me an automatic midpoint. So when I select and go down, you can kind of start to see your doors developing there, but don't want to get too far ahead of ourselves. Let's just get back to our normal box. So let's see, that's the offset. Outer shell, I'm not too familiar. I think that might be a newer feature that has to do with the cloud. So let's skip outer shell. We're going to come down to the next menu item, and I've got 3 things here: move, rotate, and scale. So let's go first to move, and we're going to scroll. Let's zoom back. So I'm going to come down to the bottom. I'm going to hit this kind of middle magnifying glass. I'm going to click on the model and start to scroll down while I'm clicking. And if I come back up, and let's say that I want to move something. So if I want to move and slide this guy, this base cabinet that I've started, if I want to move him to a different place in the model, what I cannot do is just click the move and go over and grab and start to move. Because what you'll see is that it's skewing. SketchUp has anchor points, and right now the model is anchored to a particular point. And so when I grab one face and move it, all the other faces are kind of locked in to where we originally put it. So if I want to move this whole box, what I'm going to do is I'm going to select my selector tool in the left. I'm going to come down and say I'm going to make this big tool around it. And I'm going to make this big window around it. And what I'm doing when I do that is I'm selecting everything. I'm selecting the face here. I'm selecting the edges. Let me rotate around and show you what I mean. Everything is selected. The corners, the bottom, the face of the what would be the plywood, everything's selected. So now when I go up and I select the move, it's moving the whole thing, and it's releasing all of the anchor points. Really useful tool here is I'm going to come and just grab the corner here. And you see where where the dot lets me select the corner? Watch this. I'm going to grab that corner, and it's going to let me go and put this guy right in the axis. And so that helps you when you're connecting base cabinets together. You can grab one from the corner and slide it right up to the next one. Rotate. Rotate gives you a full compass protractor. And I'm just going to grab my side here, and you always are going to click this twice. So I'm going to click it at my rotation point. It's just like if you were going to go grab a base cabinet, and if you hold it on one corner and put force on the other corner, it's going to pivot on that one point. So what it's looking for in the middle is saying, okay, what wants to be the pivot point? So I'm going to click here. that it's going to show the pivot point, and then I have to pick the direction I want it to pivot. So I'm going to pull off of here, and let's just say that I want to pivot it down. See where it starts to turn? I can go. It has stops at, I think at 45 degrees, 22 and a half, 90 degrees. So you can kind of spin it around. But of course, as always, you can just type in how far you want it to go. If I just put 90 and enter, it's going to kick it 90 degrees. If let's grab it again, and let's if I take it and say 180, it's going to take it 180 degrees. So there's all kinds of useful ways to use that tool. I'm going to skip the scaling. There's in SketchUp, there's componentry, and just to quickly show you how the scaling works. It's a little like the push-pull tool, but not exactly. When you get into components and different layers, the scaling tool works a little differently than push-pull and gives you a little more flexibility. But a quick demonstration of how it works is you can just grab at any point inside that model and bring it in and out, and you can do it as a matter of proportion. Whereas push-pull, you're going to bring it 4 inches. When you're using the scaling tool, you can bring it out 25%. You can do it all kinds of different ways. But I don't want to do that right now. I want to get back, and let's look at the next set of tools. And these are pretty much all of my dimensioning tools. I'm going to wrap up. My battery's about to run out. These are my dimensioning tools. So remember when I told you earlier when we made this a 3-foot wide base cabinet? If we want to confirm that, this is a really cool tool. It's just no different than when you're in the shop. You're going to have a tape measure. So just click the tape measure, and you can click any 2 points. So I just click this end point. I'm going over here to the right, and I'm clicking that. If you look down at the bottom right, you'll see 3 feet. And that's telling you that's going to be 3 feet. That's helpful for you. And again, I'll do it here. Going from here to here, that's 3 feet. And I'm going from here to here. That's 2 feet. That's helpful for you because you're engaged in the model and you're working on it. But your client can't see that. So a quick, easy way to give dimension points for your client, you can go, you're just going to come over and click this guy on the left, the dimensioning toolbar. Then you're going to hit dimensions. And then I'm going to click this point and this point. And when I start to pull down, look there, just like your architectural drawings, it's giving you your 2 endpoints. And if I come here and down, there's my 2 feet. There to there. There's my 3 feet. And so you're able to show your client the exact dimensions of that base cabinet. We'll leave those on. Actually, I'm going to Control Z and get rid of those and just get us back to the base model. So if I click here, I'm not too familiar with the section plane in the cloud version, but the protractor, it works just about the same as the tape measure. It's just a way for you to measure an angle. Instead of measuring 2 lines, you're measuring an angle. So if I want to know what the angle is from here to here, I'm just going to select my pivot point. I'm going to pick my origin, and I'm going to pick where I want it to rotate to. And if you look at the bottom right, it's 90 degrees. If I want to know what it is from here, from this point to this point, don't know why I'd want to know that, but I'm going to go here, go there, and it's going to tell me that it's 45, which I would know already because I'm 3 feet here, 3 feet there. That's going to make that 45. It's also going to give me this view section, which can be or this reference section, which is always useful. But I'm going to hit Control Z, get rid of that. And then down here, we've got the unlocked plane. And again, I haven't spent a whole lot of time with the intersected and locked planes inside of the cloud product, so I'm going to leave that alone. So if I come down here to the footsteps, this is all some really cool stuff. I always like to build my models as much as I can. If not build the model in front of the client, I like to walk through I don't like just taking a picture of this and sending it to the client. I like to have the computer in front of me. That gives me the chance to kind of make some little edits, and it truthfully shows your client that you really have an understanding for this stuff and you really care about getting the details right, before you start cutting wood. And I say all that because this tool allows you to kind of see, it's a pair of shoes. So imagine that, we've got this, let's say that this model is kind of a full kitchen now. Let's see. I'm just doing a quick kind of hypothetical build here. And let's say we wanted to walk through the kitchen, with these, I'm just kind of making it like we're walking through the kitchen. We're walking at one axis, and with certain models, it reminds me a lot like Minecraft. You got kids that play Minecraft all the time. You're kind of just walking through a 3D model. That's what this is allowing you to do. And it's really cool once you have kind of a larger, more robust model built. Right now we got 3 base cabinets. That's not too exciting to walk around. I'm going to come here to the position camera. And basically what this is allowing me to do is it's letting me zoom in. So let's go back out. Let's kind of zoom out. Let's do a zoom extents. There we go. And rotate this guy around. And let's back off of it a little bit. Okay. So if we want to do, I call it like a flyover. So let's imagine that you're way up here and you want to kind of slowly, gradually come in and zoom in on a plane. So let's just click this guy here, camera position, and let's say that it's right here. And when I release, it's going to kind of do, again, I call it a flyover. It's going to kind of, again, it's, if you've got a bigger model and you're showing, if you're an architect and you've drawn, something that shows a hillside and you want to be up on a mountain and kind of zoom in quickly to the house. It has its, for a presentation purpose, it's pretty cool. So let's go back out. Let's zoom extents. Back up. And let's rotate up a little bit. And so I'm going to do my camera. So when I go ahead and hit the eyeball here and I go out to make my turns, what it's doing is it's just basically making a big pivot point, and it's letting me just turn everything on a big radius. I don't use it a whole lot. Again, these tools with the eyeball here and the footsteps, these are more presentation tools for if you're showing, once you've got the model built. And again, that's just when I'm building a kitchen or a base cabinet or like a small little bathroom. There's just not that much to present. And then finally, down our last, I've already shown you the last toolbox. I've already shown you the orbit. I've shown you the hand. The hand kind of slides everything just along one dimension. The magnifying glass allows me to just click it with my thumb, scroll up, scroll down. I just grabbed this is a selector tool, so I can draw a box around what I want to zoom in on. And let's say I really want to get detailed on this division line here. It allows me to draw a box around whatever I want to zoom in on and bring it right into focus. And then, like I said, we've got the zoom extents. And when you hit zoom extents, it's just going to fill the frame with my model. And if we want to back up on it a little bit to work, just scroll back. All right, so those are the main tools. Those are the basic tools. As you get over to the right, I'm going to spend a little bit more time in the cloud product, and I've actually got to teach Sketchup at IBS next week, so I'm going to dig a little bit deeper into these. But the entity info on the traditional downloaded product, the entity info lets you build. What's really cool is, a client's always going to want to see at some point in the project, they want to see variations. They want to see, okay, well, this base cabinet looks good like this, but how about some inset doors? How about one with some overlay doors, things like that. So by using entities and by using components and layers, you can bring in, without having to delete from the same model, different options. So it just gives you a lot more flexibility and lets you do large projects quicker. But that's the main toolbar. That should give you enough to get in there and start playing around with SketchUp. And in the next tutorial, we'll actually start to build a base cabinet with doors and a toe kick from scratch. Thanks.